America loves the idea of reinvention. Moving to a new city is supposed to feel like progress. Better opportunities, better lifestyle, a fresh start that finally makes sense. Instagram sunsets, skyline shots, and relocation hype make it look easy. Reality is often less forgiving. Some cities promise affordability, opportunity, and energy, then quietly drain your budget, patience, and optimism once daily life kicks in. Rising costs, uneven job markets, aging infrastructure, taxes, crime, and basic friction add up fast. Some cities where expectations collapse after arrival, before signing lease or loading a truck. These are 12 U.S. cities you should seriously think twice about. Number 12. Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson is one of those cities people move to thinking they've cracked the affordability code. Low home prices, central location, and the promise of Southern charm. On paper, it looks like a win. In reality, Jackson has a way of testing optimism very quickly. Housing is cheap by national standards, with median home prices still hovering around $120,000 to $140,000. But that number hides the real costs. Property insurance can spike unexpectedly, infrastructure issues are constant, and entire neighborhoods feel like they were left on red by city planners. Water system failures made national headlines, and residents learned very quickly that boil notice isn't a metaphor here, it's a lifestyle adjustment. The job market is another wake-up call. Government, healthcare, and education dominate, but private sector growth is thin. Wages lag, with median household income sitting near $45,000, while utility bills, car insurance, and groceries keep creeping upward. Crime remains a daily concern, not just a statistic, shaping how people move, park, and live. Jackson does have culture, deep history, strong music roots, real food, and communities that look out for each other. But newcomers often struggle with the gap between potential and execution. One resident summed it up best. "I moved here for the cost of living. I stayed because moving again costs money. The people are great, the systems are not." By month 6, many realize affordability alone doesn't equal peace of mind. Number 11. Denver, Colorado. At first glance, Denver feels like a life reset button. Mountains on the horizon, an outdoors-first culture, and the promise that work-life balance actually exists somewhere in America. Newcomers arrive convinced they're stepping into a healthier, calmer version of city living. What catches them off guard is how quickly that dream collides with rising costs, crowded roads, and a daily routine that feels far more expensive and demanding than expected. Housing is the first shock. Median home prices pushed past $550,000, and rent for a basic one-bedroom routinely clears $1,900 to $2,200. Wages sound decent until you realize everything costs more here: groceries, utilities, insurance, and especially property taxes in surrounding counties. The math stops mathing quickly. The job market is competitive, not cozy. Tech, aerospace, healthcare, and energy exist, but layoffs and hiring freezes made the booming Denver economy feel more like musical chairs. Miss a seat, and you're stuck overqualified, underpaid, and refreshing job boards at midnight. Traffic is another surprise. I-25 moves like it's offended by your presence, and winter storms turn commutes into group survival exercises. Public transit exists, but it's not saving you time. Add wildfire smoke weeks, water restrictions, and HOA rules that read like novels, and the shine fades. Denver is still beautiful. The mountains deliver. Weekends can feel unreal. But day-to-day life is expensive, crowded, and stressful in ways Instagram never shows. Number 10. Chicago, Illinois. Chicago is the city people move to because it feels like a bargain version of a world-class metropolis. Big skyline, lakefront views, legendary food, and neighborhoods that actually feel alive. On arrival, it delivers exactly what the brochure promises. The regret creeps in later, quietly, usually around the first winter utility bill. Housing looks reasonable compared to coastal cities, but property taxes rise fast and without mercy. Many homeowners see annual tax bills jump into the $8,000 to $12,000 range, even on modest homes. Rent keeps climbing too, with one-bedrooms in decent neighborhoods pushing $2,000 plus, while wages struggle to keep pace. Then there's winter. Not the postcard snow, the real one. Months of gray skies, lake-effect wind that cuts through everything, and heating bills that feel like a subscription you never agreed to. Commuting becomes an endurance event, and public transit reliability depends heavily on luck and patience. Crime perception also weighs heavily on newcomers. Chicago isn't one thing, it's many cities stitched together. Some neighborhoods thrive, others struggle, and the contrast can change block by block. Insurance rates reflect that reality, especially for cars. Chicago still has energy, culture, and opportunity. But for many transplants, the combination of taxes, weather, and daily stress slowly drains the excitement. One resident put it simply, "I love the food, I love the skyline, but I didn't realize how much effort it takes just to live here comfortably." Number 9. San Francisco, California. San Francisco attracts people with the promise of creativity, innovation, and a lifestyle that feels ahead of the rest of the country. The scenery delivers immediately. The weather behaves. The neighborhoods feel iconic. What most newcomers underestimate is how aggressively expensive daily life becomes once the excitement wears off. Housing is the main pressure point. Even modest apartments routinely push $3,500 to $4,000 a month. And that's before utilities, parking, or fees that appear out of nowhere. Buying is even harder, with median home prices still hovering near $1.2 million. High taxes and insurance costs quietly compound the problem, turning a strong income into a fragile one. The job market used to offset the pain, but that balance shifted. Tech hiring cooled, layoffs became common, and competition intensified while expenses stayed elevated. Groceries, childcare, and transportation all operate in premium mode, even when quality doesn't match the price. Street conditions add constant friction. Car break-ins are frequent, parking feels like a gamble, and public transit reliability varies by neighborhood and hour. Entire blocks can flip from polished to chaotic without warning. San Francisco remains beautiful and culturally powerful, but many transplants realize too late that living here requires financial stamina, patience, and a tolerance for dysfunction that goes far beyond the postcard version of the city. Number 8. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia pulls people in with history, walkable neighborhoods, and the promise of East Coast city life without New York prices. At first, it feels manageable. Row homes, corner stores, personality everywhere. Then the hidden costs and daily friction start stacking up, usually faster than expected. Taxes hit harder than expected. The city wage tax alone catches newcomers off guard, hovering near 3.8%, and property taxes climb fast for homeowners, especially after reassessments. Housing looks affordable until you factor in maintenance on aging buildings, rising insurance, and utilities that spike in both winter and summer. Median rents in stable neighborhoods now sit around $1,800 to $2,200, and that gap between safe and affordable is narrow, often measured in just a few blocks. Infrastructure feels tired. Potholes multiply, trash pickup feels inconsistent, and public transit works best when expectations are kept low. SEPTA delays are common enough to plan around, not complain about, and commuting reliability varies by line and season. Crime perception also weighs heavily, with block-by-block shifts that force constant situational awareness, especially for newcomers unfamiliar with local patterns. The job market is mixed. Healthcare, education, and government jobs dominate, but private sector growth lags behind peer cities. Median household income sits near $60,000, and wages don't stretch far once taxes and housing settle in. Philly still has culture, grit, and energy, but many transplants realize it demands more patience, budgeting discipline, and tolerance for friction than they plan to spend. Number 7. Austin, Texas. Austin became a relocation magnet almost overnight. Music, tech, warm weather, and the idea that Texas freedom comes with big paychecks and no state income tax. The surprise comes when people realize Austin no longer behaves like the bargain city it once was, especially for newcomers arriving after the boom years. Housing is the main shock. Median home prices remain near $450,000 to $500,000, and rents for basic apartments often cross $1,700 to $2,000. Property taxes fill the gap left by no income tax, frequently exceeding 2% of assessed value and rising faster than salaries. Utilities climb in summer, and insurance costs reflect both population growth and increasing climate risk tied to heat and storms. Traffic is another reality check. Austin's road system wasn't built for its population surge, turning short drives into daily time drains where 10 miles can mean 40 minutes. Public transit exists, but it doesn't scale well with sprawl. The job market is competitive too. Tech brought opportunity, then volatility, with layoffs and hiring freezes cooling the once guaranteed landing. The culture still exists, but it's stretched thinner. Crowds are heavier, prices are higher, and access to what made Austin appealing feels more conditional. Austin isn't failing. It's just no longer forgiving. For many newcomers, the regret comes from realizing they arrived after the easy chapter quietly closed. Number 6. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit attracts newcomers with one powerful idea: opportunity at a discount, cheap houses, wide streets, and a narrative of comeback and revival. On arrival, parts of the city genuinely impress. Downtown and Midtown show real investment, new businesses, renovated buildings, and energy that feels earned. The regret starts when people realize how sharply conditions change once you leave those pockets. Housing prices look unbeatable, with many homes still under $150,000, but ownership comes with surprises. Auto insurance rates are among the highest in the country, often exceeding $2,500 per year. Maintenance costs stack quickly, and city services feel inconsistent depending on the block. A low mortgage doesn't feel like a win when repairs, taxes, and utilities close the gap fast. The job market is stable but narrow. Auto-related industries, healthcare, and logistics dominate, while white-collar diversification remains limited. Median household income sits around $55,000, and wages don't always match inflation. Winters add another layer of stress. Snow, gray skies, and heating bills become part of the mental load for nearly half the year. Detroit has grit, culture, and resilience. But newcomers often underestimate how much effort daily life requires. The contrast between visible progress and surrounding neglect can feel exhausting, and many realize optimism alone doesn't smooth over an uneven recovery. Number 5. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Albuquerque draws people in with desert sunsets, open space, and the promise of a slower, more affordable life. It looks relaxed, scenic, and refreshingly different from crowded coastal cities. Living there reveals a more complicated picture beneath the calm surface. Housing remains cheaper than many metros, with median prices around $330,000 to $360,000, but wages lag behind. Median household income hovers near $55,000, making rising rents, utilities, and insurance harder to absorb. The cost of living gap that once defined Albuquerque is narrowing fast, especially as in-migration increases demand. Crime shapes daily routines more than newcomers expect. Car theft, break-ins, and property crime remain persistent issues, influencing where people park, shop, and live. The city's spread-out layout adds frustration, with long drives, limited public transit options, and growing fuel costs that quietly eat into monthly budgets. The job market is steady but limited. Government, healthcare, and national labs provide stability, but private sector growth is modest. Career mobility can feel slow, especially for transplants arriving with higher expectations or specialized skill sets. Albuquerque still offers beauty, culture, and access to nature that's hard to beat. But many people discover that calm scenery doesn't always translate into an easy lifestyle. The regret often comes from realizing the pace is slower in opportunity as well as traffic. Number 4. Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland surprises people at first. Lake views, historic neighborhoods, and housing prices that look almost unreal compared to larger metros. For newcomers, it feels like a practical move, culture without coastal pricing. The long-term experience is where expectations start to shift. Housing remains affordable, with many homes still under $200,000, but property taxes are heavier than anticipated and vary sharply by suburb. Older homes mean constant upkeep, and winters accelerate wear on everything from roofs to roads. Heating costs climb fast, and gray skies linger for months, wearing down even optimistic transplants. The job market offers stability, not momentum. Healthcare, education, and manufacturing provide work, but upward mobility can feel slow. Younger professionals often struggle to find roles that justify staying long-term. Infrastructure improvements happen, but at a pace that tests patience rather than inspires confidence. Weather plays a major role in regret. Lake effect snow doesn't arrive politely. It shows up repeatedly, unpredictably, and with attitude. Commuting becomes seasonal strategy rather than routine, especially during long winter stretches. Cleveland has character and loyal residents, but newcomers often realize it demands endurance. The city grows on you slowly, and not everyone is willing to wait. Number 3. Shreveport, Louisiana. Shreveport appeals to movers searching for affordability and quiet living. The cost of housing is low, with median prices near $140,000, and at first glance, life feels financially lighter. Over time, other pressures begin filling that space. Economic opportunity is the city's biggest hurdle. Manufacturing decline, limited corporate presence, and slow job growth leave few paths for advancement. Casinos brought activity, but not enough momentum to reshape the broader economy. Median household income sits near $43,000, while insurance, utilities, and car costs continue rising faster than wages. Infrastructure shows its age. Roads, drainage, and public services struggle, especially during heavy storms. Weather swings between extreme heat and intense rainfall, turning routine maintenance into constant recovery. Crime also remains a concern, shaping where people live and how they move throughout the city. Shreveport has warmth, personality, and deep local roots. Community ties are strong, and people look out for each other. But newcomers often underestimate how quickly limited opportunity and aging systems drain enthusiasm. The regret doesn't come from one big issue. It comes from the accumulation of small frustrations that never quite go away. Number 2. Stockton, California. Stockton looks deceptively strategic, close to the Bay Area near Sacramento, and positioned like a quiet backdoor into California opportunity. That geography pulls people in fast. The idea is simple: tolerate a smaller city, commute if needed, and enjoy lower housing costs. What newcomers learn is that Stockton absorbed California's problems without inheriting California's paychecks. Housing is no longer the bargain it once was. Median home prices sit around $420,000 to $460,000, inflated by spillover demand from the Bay Area. Rent follows the same pattern, often clearing $1,800 plus for average units. The problem is wages. Median household income hovers near $63,000, which doesn't stretch far once utilities, insurance, fuel, and food enter the equation. Affordability exists on paper, not in practice. Crime perception weighs heavily on daily life. It shapes where people shop, how they commute, and how comfortable they feel after dark. Property crime remains persistent, and insurance rates reflect it. Infrastructure struggles too. Roads feel worn, public services feel thin, and school quality varies sharply by neighborhood, pushing many families toward private options they didn't budget for. The job market adds another layer of disappointment. Logistics, warehousing, and healthcare dominate, but upward mobility is limited. Many residents commute long distances, turning savings into fuel costs and time loss. Summers bring triple-digit heat, with temperatures regularly crossing 100 degrees Fahrenheit, adding energy bills and physical fatigue to the mix. Stockton isn't without resilience or community, but newcomers often realize they traded one set of California pressures for another, without the benefits that made the trade worthwhile. The regret sets in quietly once the commute, costs, and stress settle into routine. Number 1. Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham draws people in with affordability, friendliness, and the promise of an easier Southern lifestyle. It feels grounded, historic, and manageable at first. For many newcomers, the regret doesn't come from culture or people. It comes from systems that never quite catch up. Housing costs appear reasonable, with median prices near $230,000, but ownership reveals hidden expenses. Insurance rates fluctuate, infrastructure issues linger, and maintenance on older homes adds up quickly. Utilities spike during long, humid summers, where heat indexes routinely push past 100 degrees Fahrenheit, turning air conditioning into a survival expense. The job market is steady but narrow. Healthcare, education, and banking anchor employment, yet wage growth remains slow. Median household income sits around $55,000, and opportunities outside core industries are limited. Career mobility often means leaving the metro, a realization many arrive unprepared for. Crime remains a constant consideration. It shapes neighborhood choices and daily routines, especially for newcomers unfamiliar with the city's uneven layout. Public transit offers limited relief, leaving most residents car-dependent. Roads and sidewalks show decades of deferred investment, reinforcing the sense that progress moves slowly here. Schools vary dramatically by area, pushing families into careful zoning decisions or costly alternatives. Meanwhile, downtown revitalization feels partial, with energy concentrated in pockets rather than spread across the city. Birmingham has heart, history, and genuinely welcoming people. But newcomers often discover that friendliness doesn't replace infrastructure, opportunity, or momentum. The regret comes when expectations of simplicity collide with a reality that requires far more compromise than advertised.